Hello, hello. Here we are on our session number 4 of 6 of Own Your Genius. I love these. These are so much fun. And as you can tell, there's some pretty freaking cool women in my community. I feel so blessed to have all these amazing women doing the work that they're doing. And today is no different, man. We are going to dive in with these extraordinary women and really hear about the impact that they're making in the world. This is about raising up your voice, being seen, being heard, having a message that matters, and going out and doing the work so that you can create that ripple effect of what you're meant to be doing in the world. It's so powerful to be able to really work with so many extraordinary women who have a difference to make. So this is going to be a fun day. I'm excited to have you guys joining us in. So joining in with us today, as you log on, do say hi in the comments and put your name next to your comment so that we know who is logging on. We always like to know who's here. And engage in the conversation. Ask these guys questions, shout them out, because this is the part of being seen and being heard is getting that reflections back. So you guys have been great the last couple sessions all last week. It was awesome to have you guys joining in. So do join in and share more about who you are and what's inspiring you. And if you're tuning in during on the recordings of this, also let us know what's inspired you. Let us know all of that good stuff. These women are all part of my mastermind communities, and I've got two different masterminds. And so these women, where did I come up with these guys? These women, these extraordinary women are part of my community, and I love sharing the work that they're doing. So let's dig in. Where do I want to take this? So I'm going to start today with Jill Keuth. So Jill, tell us a little bit about your work, what you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jill Keuth. I'm life coach and founder of Be Courageously You. I have been coaching primarily women for 7.5 years now. I found my way to this work after my own journey of rediscovering who I am. After a life had a series of events that were out of my control, not according to my plan, and I wasn't super happy about them about 12 years ago. I started asking new questions. I started getting curious about purpose and callings and who am I? My work as a coach is meeting accomplished, successful, high-achieving women who are out there doing big, amazing things. And yet on the inside, something is missing that she oftentimes cannot name. Oftentimes it comes after a catalytic moment, and we've all been through a really, really big one. So this is a really big time collectively for the greater consciousness for us to be curious about who I am. My work, Be Courageously You, is about helping women to know the truth of who they are, who they were born as, remembering that truth, remembering those strengths and those beautiful, I like to say, Pantones of colors. If you follow me on social, you'll see a lot of rainbows. And each soul having a human experience on this planet, you are one in a billions. You've never existed before, and you will never exist again. You are a gorgeous kaleidoscope of amazing, awesome, profound, purposeful meaning because of who you are. And yet, as women, we evaluate ourselves based on what we do and how well we do it and what we think other people think about those things. And then we're missing it. We're missing something. And
why does this happen, Jill? Let's dig into this a little bit, because I certainly came through my own evolution of me, right? It's like there was that time, and there was like things needed to shift, and there was a change moment that started it. And sometimes I believe that there's something that actually, the universe is there saying, yeah, you've got something over here. You've got work to do. You've got things to explore, because you're going to be blossoming in a whole new way.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of the work, Cami. It's when we can start to understand that there's so much more at play in life, and with the greater source of energy of all that is, whatever your belief is in your higher power, There's so much more at play than how certainly I was raised. You go to school and you get the grades, and then you go to your next job, and then you do the thing, and then life is happening, and it's so confusing. And you get to midlife and you've done all the things and you've checked all the boxes, and by all measurements, it looks like success, and yet it can feel so lonely on the inside. And so I think your question is a really profound one, and it has so much more to do than oftentimes what we think. We oftentimes go to, well, it's because this happened in my life, or this hardship happened. And when we look at the really, really big picture, it's a conditioning, because who wins when we all play small?
Right.
When Cammie and Diane and Kara and Jill and all of you watching, when we all play small and we stay humble and we stay, just on a
nice little place.
In a nice little place. Be polite. Don't get too big. Don't be too loud. Who wins?
Yeah. It makes me want to do this, right? It's like, we're not staying small.
I have the chills, because
Yeah.
it's a really big question, and we can break it down, and we can, we all know, anyone that follows you, Cammie, or that follows Diane or Kara or myself and was called to this conversation, we know, we can feel it, we can sense it.
We can.
And we're just collectively done.
Yeah.
And that's why my work is called Be Courageously You, because when you start to shift these habitual ways that we were all taught to be so that we could be good and we could be enough, when we start to shift that, and we start to let ourselves be free and let ourselves shine our lights, that's not easy to do. Yeah. There's nothing easy about finding our way to our truest selves and being that in the world. It takes courage.
What was your moment where you really found that courageous you that broke through? Was there a specific moment?
Oh, many. I think for all
probably
of us,
like seeds that were being dropped.
I can tell you though that the nudge, the ultimate big push, was when I had my catalytic moment, felt lost, found my way to this world I didn't even know existed, which was coaching and deep personal development. And I was on my own journey. I had realized I had intuitive gifts, and I was being called to this work. And I knew I couldn't go out and do it until I'd done my own inner work. And I had a coach at the time who essentially said, okay, you're ready. Oh, I'm ready. Oh no, this is 2014. I'm not ready. Oh, I don't know enough. I haven't done it enough. And she was like, it's time for you to come out. You need to come out of it. Nobody knew. My husband didn't know. I hadn't told anyone because I knew I didn't want anyone else's opinion, and I didn't have anyone nudging me. When she said, it's time for you to come out, that's when I thought of my dearest uncle and my aunt and my cousins who have courageously walked out and come out with their true colors. In decades and in parts of the country where it really perhaps wasn't safe to do so. And when she said that to me, and I thought, who am I to play so small and be afraid to come out as a life coach? when my late uncle, who is just the gem of all things, was willing to come out in his life for who he was, that was my moment. I mean, I could cry. I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. And I stepped across that line, and I hung my shingle, and I started my practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's your practice, your business is growing so fast right now. You're full of clients, and you're in the space of creating new programs. And what's most exciting for you that is in front of you right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, yes. In a way, I have felt like I've almost muffled my voice, which has been somewhat frustrating because I am so full of one-on-one clients. I really have very limited space. And I joined this collective mastermind with you, Cammie, so that I could be playing on a big stage with really courageous women like Diane and Kara and like yourself and the other women in our mastermind that are doing really big, courageous things. Because, you know, I coach courage. I have to practice courage every day.
We all do, right?
Oh my God, every day, multiple times a day, multiple times. So what's on the horizon right now? I mean, my hair is raising because I'm working to learn with you and with us how to scale this, and the offerings that are coming and my ability to expand my reach and to invite more women in. I'm right on the cusp of it. I'm offering my first retreat this September, Coming Home to Yourself.
Which sold out like in almost a heartbeat.
Yeah, I have one spot left. I put it out to a few private clients and boom. And then that one spot I feel like is so special. Like, it's like, I haven't really been marketing it a lot because it's like there for her. And I don't know who she is yet. It's just, she's coming. So exciting. Yeah. So big things are on the horizon. And I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm thrilled about it.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, just because I'm so cognizant of our businesses taking on multiple lives, right? It's like the spiral journey of our businesses. You know, we're growing, we're doing our first round of branding and who we are. We start to get our first clients, and then we get, you know, we grow, and then we get full, and we're like, okay, how do I scale myself, right? And then it's a whole new level of growth. What has that journey been like, you know, coming back through each level of expansion for you?
Oh my gosh, that is such a great question, because regardless of who's watching and what your business is or what your mission or what your purpose looks like, what your career is, we are all doing that within our professional lives and personal lives, right. And they're not separate. And the work I do is really about alignment, that you are the same soul having the same human experience, whether you're in the courtroom or the boardroom or the marketing room or the conference room, the ballroom, your living room or your bedroom. Yeah. And so when you look at that evolution of my business, it's really following the evolution of me.
So true.
I am growing and evolving here in this space in the same ways I'm growing and evolving. I always point like out there, like where the people are. I also, my business expands as my children get older. And I think that's an important point to make. When my children were little, I had more demands on my time with them than I do now. Yeah. I'm not too sad about that. Like, they can take their own baths and their own showers, and they can pull up their own, you know, britches. And so I certainly, if you look at the evolution and the expansion of my business, it has grown as my time has expanded as well. So it's personal, it's inner, it's just what my life looks like. And it's all been one and together. And I would say that's the same for all of us.
That's so cool. That's so super cool. I love it. And if the whole world could hear one message from you, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. When I watch her face, if I'm on a Zoom like this, and I say, you know, when I ask you who you are and you tell me your roles, and I say, what? You are a 1 in a billions soul having a human experience. Remember who you are. For me, remembering who I am is pre-memory. I had to reclaim this essence, this energy, this sense of who I am. I had to get to know me on the deepest levels. And once I can encourage everyone to know the truth of who you are so you can become who you're meant to be, we change the world.
I love it. So true. So true. I mean, I just love your work that you're doing, and it's so powerful. And so you're part of the Platinum Mastermind community. And tell us a little bit about what's changed for you in your business since you have been, I mean, what brought you in there? I think we kind of hit a little bit about what brought you in there, but what's changed?
I will say this, I didn't say it before. I chose to go into your platinum level because I knew that with my personality and the way I work, I had to stretch. I know that I have to move out of a comfort zone so that I can boost up the courage to do the bigger things. So I knew this year and my future, the level where I am and where I'm expanding is once again, going to stretching me beyond my comfort zone. I joined the platinum level because it put me at a price point. It put me in a room. It put me in conversations that I'm having to stretch beyond what I know how to do, like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
The women in that group ask me questions that are tough. You know, we were kind of like challenging each other. So what's changed in my business is I think it's really coming. I would say what we can see now is when I put out the invitation for the retreat, prior to being in that mastermind, my nature is, oh, wouldn't it be great to have one of those? Let me think about it. Let me mull it around. Let me consider it for like years. Maybe I'll do it. That retreat, like it moved through me,
Right.
through us. So Tammy, you were there to help me. You had a spreadsheet. Oh my God, I don't do spreadsheets. I have a genius. It is not the spreadsheet. You were there to say, here are the numbers. Here's what you've got to consider. Here's the business aspect. Here's how much you need. You've got to pay yourself for the time it's going to take to put this thing on. So it's like it moved through me, through the platinum, through your guidance, and came out like, I don't know, like a baby. I didn't even have a contraction. It just like, it just like flew out of me, and I put it out there, and they came. Like, it's done. I mean, other than my one spot that I'm waiting for who's ready for this to come home to yourself retreat. So yeah, my bigness is already pulling through. It's April. We started in January. Ooh, who knows what's to come in the next following quarters.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you also, part of that was you put a big investment onto your retreat. So you're like, I'm just going to go both with it. And it was fantastic. So there's your courageous you being, stepping into the space. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. And my invitation for my people, like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it on a big level. Yeah. It's time.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Way to go, Jill.
Thank you.
Let's go to Kara. Kara, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kara Schmitt. I'm with the Rocky Mountain Center for Positive Change, and I'm a social worker. I'm an appreciative inquiry practitioner. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that means I operate from a space of building on strengths and what's working, and really taking in the voices of the entire system that's being asked to do really great things in the world. So I have the huge privilege of working with some amazing leaders and organizations to really elevate the impact that they're having in the world.
So good. I love the work you do. You know this because I also followed the path of appreciative inquiry. I incorporated it into my programs and have for many, many years. I even incorporated it into some of my former executive life. I used appreciative inquiry. In fact, that's how I met Amanda Trost and Bloom, who Kara partners with. So I love this whole work of leaders stepping into leading through that type of a lens. Tell us more about what that means. I mean, tell us what does leading with positive as a leader mean?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of us probably have experienced sort of what I would refer to as the myths of leadership. Like, there's a certain way we should be in the world. There's a certain way we should look. There's a certain way we should show up. And really what I've come to through my own learning and experience is we are all leaders and we're all change makers. And so the best way we can do that is when we show up in our own values and as our most authentic self. And I feel like, especially now, the world is just calling for that kind of leadership. The kind that we've had historically does not work. Hierarchy, patriarchy, it's not happening for us. We need inclusive spaces. We need places where we all belong and we all feel like we can contribute. And so I really believe that the way we approach our work at the center with the appreciative inquiry process allows for that, because we take away power dynamics. We really invite all the parts of the system to come together, because we know the best innovation and creativity comes from those diverse voices. And when leaders are willing to be vulnerable and take a step back and hear from the people that they're trying to serve and lead, that's when magic happens. So I'm a huge, huge believer in Brene Brown's work and how she defines leadership, which is if you are developing the people or the great ideas and you're seeking to support that and develop that, that makes you a leader automatically. So we're all leaders, whether that's in our homes, in our professional lives, in our communities. We all have that ability. And so it's just time that we tap into that and do more of that.
Yeah. And I want to get more to the Brene Brown work, but I want to go back to, let's just pick a client that one of your clients that you've done some work with in this space. Give our listeners a little bit of a kind of how you work with them. How do you bring this room full of all the people that have voices that need to contribute to it? How do you bring that? Tell them a little bit about the process that you do.
Yeah.
So somebody listening from the perspective of, I've got a team, I would love them to be working better together. And you could take that topic in so many different ways, but let's just pick, or unless you have a better one you want to use.
No, I think that's a great way to think about it. And I think it's so, honestly, I think about a variety of clients when you ask that question. And I think because of what we've all been experiencing over the past couple of years, everybody's been faced with tons of change, tons of need to pivot, tons of need to reinvent and rethink how we work together, how we support one another. And as leaders, we've been asked to take on a lot more in terms of what our teams are dealing with. So in addition to what people were already dealing with in their day-to-day lives, we all have, life issues with kids and family and aging parents and all the balls, right? And then you throw in a global pandemic, you throw in all the things that have been always there, but really at the surface around racial justice and inequality. And now we're also being asked to figure out, how do we keep doing the work we're trying to do? And I spend a lot of time working with nonprofits. So for them, most of their work was already urgent. And so I think for me, it's just been really critical to kind of pause and honor the water that we're swimming in to start. But then in terms of process, to really bring together a representative in the organization. So, I'm thinking about a couple organizations that I've been working with lately. And one of the things that's really on organizations' mind right now are, how do we create the kind of work culture people want to be a part of? As we're all hearing about the Great Resignation and all the things that are happening, people do have a choice now, right? And I think the past couple of years has forced us all to think about what our priorities are. So as we opt back into where we want to be and where we want to contribute, that's really important for leaders to be aware of in organizations. So first part of our process that I think really honors that is we want to hear from everybody that's part of that system. So when I think about a nonprofit that I'm working with, that includes board members, that includes leadership team, that includes the people that are doing the direct day-to-day service, that most especially includes the clients that are being served and impacted and the partners that are supporting that work. And that's who we bring together to have those first conversations about what is it that you're envisioning and what do you want to achieve? And what are your ideas for how we get there? And how are we going to do that together? Because when you do that from a whole systems perspective, you automatically have the buy-in for how the work gets done. And you get it done more efficiently, more effectively, and with a ton more joy because people feel part of it, right? And
they start sharing their stories. There's so much story in that process.
And we crave connection. Gosh, if we've learned anything from this time, connection is just so critical to how we are in the world, physically, mentally, emotionally. Like we've got to maintain connection, and people want that in their workspaces and in their communities.
Yeah, I love this, Kara. And I think what's important too is when you bring the whole system together into those conversations, into the stories and their sharing, and you get more ideas and more everybody gets to contribute to what that future looks like. And that's a different way than somebody up at the top thinking of this is how we're going to lead and then pushing it all down. This is flipping that really on its head, and it's so different.
It's absolutely flipping that script. And I think for me, it's that, oh, yeah, that's a myth buster right there. You don't have to be a dictator. You don't have to be the one that knows everything. In fact, the most effective leaders I know are the ones that are the first to say, guys, I don't know. Like, I'd love to hear from you. How do we do this better? What worked for you? Especially from their clients. And I think the other gift I have in working with organizations is I do get to support leaders and teams individually and as leadership teams to say, what is our role in this? How do we support this? There's a great quote by James Clear for those of you that are Atomic Habits fans. We don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And I think about that a lot when I'm talking with leaders. It's like, do you have the practices and the processes in place that are going to support this whole? Or are you the ones that are holding that back and then complaining because you're not hitting your goals? And so I think when we do flip that and we give the right people the power, then that's when we really get things done in our communities. And
That's awesome.
Again, as I think about the organizations that I've been working with, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of city community-wide organizations, the ones that have been on the front lines, they're the ones that are being brave and trying to do this in new ways. And it's working, and they're having the impact they want to have when they make those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, that's so cool. So how are you weaving the Brene Brown work into it? So you are a certified Brene Brown Dare to Lead
Facilitator. Yeah.
Facilitator. Okay, there we go. So, and which is quite an honor, because that's not widely. I mean, it's an honor that you were selected into the program to be one of her facilitators. So that's super, super cool. How are you incorporating it into your work with your clients?
Yeah. Well, little did I know when I took the training in September of 2019 and was part of this amazing group, how relevant it would be. I've been a follower of Brene's work for many years as a social worker. But for me, it's been one of the things that's been a missing link. And how I typically find things and what I bring to my work is it's usually whatever I'm seeking and needing in that space. I think Jill talked a little bit about that too. It's like we kind of find the things we need so that we can then bring that to the rest of the world a lot of times. And
Totally.
so for me, it's this concept of, I think what's previously been thought of as soft skills, that those were the fluffy things. We don't really need them. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we need to do, because you don't get to accomplish the goals you want to accomplish without trust, without relationship. And somehow along the way, we've sort of lost sight of that. And so for me, this curriculum, it helps people understand that empathy and courage are things that you can develop. These are skills that we can develop. Brene's research backs that, and she gives tools and practices to help do that. And that's just been a way that I feel like has just been another tool in my toolbox as groups are doing this systems level work, to say, if you're going to do this kind of work and do it well, you've got to be vulnerable. You have to think about your responses to the people that you're working with. Empathy isn't something you have or you don't. Empathy is something you practice and you can build a muscle in. And courage is the same way. And guess what? Having hard and difficult conversations and doing this, like giving and receiving feedback, it's hard, and it doesn't necessarily get easier or more comfortable, but we can get bigger muscles in it so that we do it more consistently. And when we do that, then I feel like, okay, that's powerful, right? And it allows for that flow into the other work I was describing in the larger context. So I feel like it kind of can give people a superpower and a freedom to do the work they're really trying to do.
I love it. I love it. So if you had one message for the whole world, what would it be?
We're all leaders and change makers. So let's get out there and do it, because we need it more than ever. And we need it in all different kinds of ways.
Yeah, we definitely need it more than ever. And we all need to be standing up in our leadership and so finding that. I love it so much. And at the end of this, you will tell some people how they can get involved with you and a little bit more about that as we wrap back around. So what brought you into the mastermind? What had you come in?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because this is round 2 for me.
It is round 2 for you.
A few years ago, when I was making a really big change and making a shift before I joined the Rocky Mountain Center, I was kind of pushing pause. I had been working full time in the nonprofit sector, and I knew there was something else that I wanted to be able to contribute. My kids were at ages where they were transitioning, and I was sorting things out. And so at that time, it really served as a place of inspiration and for me to get clear on my own values and how I wanted to show up in the world. And it just really paralleled along with the opportunity to work then with my current partners at the Rocky Mountain Center, Amanda and Barbara, where we were so values aligned. It was like we didn't even really have to have the conversation. It was just like we slid right in because we had such a clear sense of this is the way we want to show up in the world. And so that's been a beautiful journey. And then kind of a next chapter has evolved for me, which is what now, right? Like not different, but better and bigger, and how to touch more people and get more people excited about what we're doing. And so I've always stayed connected to Cammie's work, and she has a wonderful event in the fall, Ignite, that I just can't say enough about, and have met so many amazing people through that event. Went to that and just got re-inspired to say, yeah, I need to dig back in. I'm putting a lot out there right now for people energetically and holding a lot of space for people doing their work and for the organizations doing their work. And I need something to fill me up. And so for me, connecting with women that are advocating for each other and coming from this mindset of abundance, and that there's room at the table for all of us, and who else can we bring to the table, that just gives me so much love and joy, and just it feels like practicing what I preach to be part of something like that. So I'm here again. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm pushing. I'm finding those spaces of what it means to be comfortable. I'm on Facebook Live today. That's not something I've done before. There's always somebody in the group pushing us to do something new and exciting and try something new. And that's a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And I think your work is so important to the world right now. There's just so many organizations that can utilize work like this to shift into organizations of the future, because if they keep leading the way they once did, they're going to start to
be irrelevant.
Right? Yeah, they really will, because people are going to make choices, and they're going to choose spaces that their voices can be heard in those organizations. So I think this is part of that shift into a better future for all of us. So I'm super thrilled for the work that you're bringing out into the world. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. So Diane Simard, I'm excited to hear about you. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Thank you, Cammie, and shout out to Jill and Kara. I have just been listening here in awe. So thank you. I feel like I am amongst great, great women. So thank you for your leadership. So I'm Diane Simard. I'm a 7-year breast cancer survivor, and I am serving those who were impacted by the psychological trauma that cancer diagnosis and experience can create. And I do that through, I was trained as a journalist. So I'm a blogger, I'm an author, I'm a speaker. I'm an advocate, and I'm still working full-time at another job, but I am transitioning into and planning. And again, thanks to Cammie and all of your wonderful resources and tools, I am in transition mode, preparing to take this on full-time, because the limited amount of time I've had to advocate and to bring more attention to, as I say, the psychological trauma that can last a lifetime is really striking a chord. And this has all happened quite accidentally as part of my own breast cancer experience. And so this is my calling. It's taken me some time to embrace that. But
anytime you go through trauma like that, it takes time. You can't just jump in right in the middle of it, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So your book, tell us the title of your book.
Sure. So my book is titled, it's called The Unlikely Gift of Breast Cancer, and which some may think is a little bit bizarre, but my breast cancer experience was certainly traumatic for me too. I was staged as a late 3 patient because I had very small breast tumors, 3 of them, but the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes in my left armpit, and so I was prescribed what I call the nuclear bomb treatment, which I didn't fit the parameters for treating cancer. And that's really, excuse me, become a theme for both the book and then my life. Really, I tend to be the one that's very different. I'm always off doing things that no one really wants to ever talk about, like cancer. And so my cancer experience became a gift to me because as I was trained as a journalist, I used journaling as a therapy, as a tool, because I myself, my oncologist, didn't know of anyone who specialized in providing mental health therapy, specifically for someone going through cancer who was a businesswoman, type A person like I am. And so I started to ask a lot of questions, and as I always jokingly say, kind of go all Geraldo on why we don't have more practitioners specializing in.
Right. So that's what you found, is you found there was just nobody that could help in those conversations.
And they do exist, these types of therapists and social workers, Kara, like you, do exist that work with cancer patients. It's just they're not well known, and there's not nearly enough of them. and it requires a specific type of training. So the gift that I really gave to myself and was my life raft to get beyond the trauma of my cancer experience was to become the founder of a specialty at the University of Denver within their clinical psychology program at the graduate level. And so these are future PsyDs is what their doctorate degree is called. And so I founded a specialty. It's called the Center for Oncology Psychology Excellence, or COPE. And because I'm a bit of a go-getter and a doer, I actually launched COPE 2 months after I finished treatment. And
Oh,
so
man.
this all came together while I was still being treated, but I needed something to hang on to
Right.
grasp onto, to pull me out of my slump, my own depression, quite honestly. And
Yeah.
so I'm, since COPE launched 6 years ago, 170 PsyD students have taken at least one of the classes within the specialty. And we were at the time the first in the country to launch this type of training at the graduate level.
Yeah. That's just so, I mean, talk about, you know, taking a circumstance and knowing that you want it to be different for others and just stepping into it and doing it.
Yeah. And I was convinced, and it's just my nature of how I am a problem solver. I think just it comes naturally. I'm always trying to fix people. And my cancer experience finally helped me recover from that, quite honestly. And that differs from Jill, what you and Kara and what you do as well, Cami, is I just felt it was my job to tell people how to live their lives. And that was just all wrong. And what this experience taught me was, first of all, to be a listener, to be compassionate, but to recognize that in the cancer experience, our path, the way that we experience cancer and respond to treatment has so much to do with who we are, how we're wired, our DNA, all of those genes, how much trauma we've had in our lives up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found for myself was that my breast cancer experience, because I was journaling, it brought up all of this past, I wouldn't even call it negative energy. It was just a lot of my own personal traumas. I hadn't forgiven my father, for example, who I was daddy's little girl up until the age of 5. And then all of a sudden, daddy got sprayed by a crop duster when he was out hauling mail in the country. I grew up in central Nebraska in a very rural area, and my dad ended up going to the psych ward for 6 months at the VA hospital being treated for what we call depression, which, again, my unlikely gift of breast cancer was that I finally discovered that he likely was suffering from PTSD from the Korean War that emerged 15 years later after his war experience. And at 5 years old, I always say my daddy broke up with me because I was no longer daddy's little girl, because daddy was in a very depressed, heavily medicated state from his PTSD. And it took me at age 50, writing a book about my breast cancer experience, to talk to family members. And it all came out, and some an uncle in my family who is an advisor himself said, Diane, today we call that PTSD. We didn't call it that back then. It was just a cover story was dad was depressed. So
yeah,
this has all just come together, and I feel like I've started the second chapter of my life in a whole new direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see the fabric being woven, you know, from all the stories of life, and what's unfolding for you in the future is the impact that you're leading, that you're creating. If the whole world could hear one message from you, what would it be, Diane?
I believe with my whole heart that psychological care needs to be part of the cancer treatment experience.
Yeah.
We need to be addressing the mental challenges that comes from facing our mortality. Again, we are statistically managing cancer better than we ever have before, but we still, there's no cure. We need cures for all these different types of cancer. There's not just one cure, unfortunately. And it's one of those rare moments where you really do face your mortality. You have a very limited amount of time to make life-changing decisions about your treatment, about what life is going to be like, hopefully if it's treatable, after cancer. And it's just so shocking and traumatizing. So I believe that since the brain is part of the body, we're treating the body for cancer, that we need to be much more aware, and that the cancer treatment protocol needs to address the mental health needs, again, of not just the person experiencing it, the caregivers as well, because these traumas are going to last for a lifetime. And then if you have a type of cancer for which there's future tests, you're going to be tested again and again, and that fear of recurrence never goes
Every
away.
single time you go, that fear that's there, the emotions that's there. And so such important work that you're doing. How are you planning on taking your voice out to the world? What's the plan for you?
Thank you. So as I mentioned, I'm really just launching into this, and this is why working with you and the mastermind group has been so helpful for me, is because I am looking at a lot of, I am a writer by trade. It's what I've done in business my whole career, and I've written the book. But what I see is that there's an interest. I'm getting requests almost daily now for some type of training, for some type of a way for those who are not studying, wanting to really get into the deep parts of the brain and how the brain works. But what are some of the skills, the resources that can be applied to address these traumas? And so I'm going to start with that, likely going to be developing some type of resources and training, continuing to tell the story, my stories. And then I'm also serving as a patient advisor. And I credit LinkedIn for this because I put myself out there as what's called a psycho-oncology influencer, which is a big, difficult to understand word. But there are companies out there that are developing digital technologies, i.e. phone apps, that are addressing and offering cancer distress relief through meditation, breathing exercises, and ways to help start to chip away at some of that anxiety and stress that a cancer experience creates. So I'm a patient advisor advising them on their messaging, on what it's like for someone who is, let's say, a month after their diagnosis, what type of resources and tools they're likely going to want to have. And there are this whole artificial intelligence is just exploding right now. And so that's also something that I'm doing, getting into the technology side of this.
Yeah. And one of the things that, we've all been touched by cancer in some way or another. I mean, that's just statistically impossible not to be, right?
That's correct.
And when you're giving people the tools to be able to take care of themselves emotionally, you're going to save lives. There's going to be shifts. There's going to be things. You're going to save lives. And that's super amazing, Diane.
It's at times I'm overwhelmed simply because cancer is an awful word, and I pray someday it won't even be part of our vocabulary, but I'm not sure we're going to be able to get there. It's a complex disease. Cancer behaves much similar to the cancer genes, and as I mentioned, there's over 100 different types of cancer, and it's all the gamuts of some are more detectable than others. Some can't even be diagnosed until it's very late stage, and so it's all over the place. But one of the things that other survivors who have learned about my work and my leadership, they'll come and hear me speak or come to a book talk, and they'll wait and they'll line up. I mean, the number of people that are so glad that somebody's willing and wanting to talk to them about their cancer experience, and they just launch into tears. There's so much that's pent up inside, and they don't want to, many of them don't want to burden their families after the formal treatment ends. Oftentimes is when the serious psychological trauma really starts. This is early research has shown this. And so oftentimes people have told me, well, thank goodness cancer's over. You don't have to worry about it ever again. Nothing could be further from the truth. This trauma stays with you. And there are those who feel guilty because they're survivors. There are those who get very angry because their family members really don't want to hear about cancer anymore. Just move on with your life, please. Can we just stop with the tears? And no, you can't. Some of us just can't. And it needs to be addressed. It just does. And there's not a lot of resources and tools. And as I mentioned, the cancer treatment process does not address this. And it really, really needs to. And the fact that insurance, most likely, unless you've got a pre-diagnosed mental disorder, insurance isn't going to pay for this. There are people paying out of pocket for therapies with a behavioral health therapist. And most of the ones that I know who treat and work with cancer patients, they're not taking on new patients already because they're so booked.
They're so full.
Yeah.
Someone says here, it just says Facebook user, so I don't know who it is. This says you're normalizing the need to talk about the emotional aspect of what people go through with cancer. So
That's a great.
keep up the good work on this.
Thank you so much.
I want to jump into this second round of questions, and I'm going to stay with you, Diane. How are showing up for others and doing the work that you're doing means that we have to take care of ourselves. What are you doing? What do you do to take care of you?
I have just listened to my heart and allowing myself to attend these retreats, Cami, some of which that you're putting on and involved with. I'm treating myself. I'm finally stopping to say, I think I will be a better leader, speaker, helper, advocate if I take care of my own self first. And
Totally.
so I've changed up this year. I did a couple of things. I've always been pre-diabetic. It's a genetic thing, and going through cancer, my regular doctor is like, okay, well, let's deal with cancer. And now my body, thankfully, after 7 years, has kind of settled back down. And it was time to deal with that pre-diabetes. And so I've been experimenting a lot with food, and sugar's always not been good for me, but I've also been getting into cutting back on wheat products, and wheat is everything. And I've been reading some of the series, and I can't remember the doctor's name, but he had written a book called Wheat Belly. And as it turns out, wheat products hit the same receptors in the brain as heroin does. And so it's very addictive. And so I'm just, again, and I'm not one to speak for and be a technical resource for this, but I'm just finding that having now gone through menopause, thanks to chemotherapy, that I'm feeling better than I ever have in my whole life. And a lot of it is because I'm finally putting the right food into my body that's being turned into energy. It is.
It really is huge. I know for a fact that when I'm good with my food, how I feel, and when I slip into like Easter Sunday craziness, it's like, where'd all that sugar come from? So I really admire that. I mean, I think that following that and paying attention to it is so good. If one pearl of wisdom.
Yeah. So that's an easy one for me. And I credit my journalism training. I was trained to be a listener. And one of the things I've always been so fascinated, I'm an inquisitive person by nature, but I've taught myself to listen a whole lot more. And oftentimes when I get to be in panel discussions like this one, I'm so mesmerized by what everyone else is saying that it comes my turn and, oh, okay, I have to turn it on because I'm just this sponge and I'm fascinated by what makes people tick. And so my pearl of wisdom is to listen more and talk less. It's just something that words that I live by. And I'm often in the professional work settings that I'm in, I'm the last one to ever get questioned because it's just not my nature to speak up right away because I'm just observing body language and listening. And then oftentimes I end up hearing things that nobody else even like. They're like, oh, I didn't even hear that because they were talking the whole time. So it's just, it's something that really works well for me and what I do.
Yeah, that's a great one. It really is. So where can people learn more about you and your work?
Thank you. So I have a personal website. It's DianeMSimard.com. And if you sign up, I've been writing a monthly blog for about 4 years, and I'm continuing to grow my followers list. But I just have started. If you sign up for my blog at my website, you'll get a welcome message from me, and it's got some of the I call them sort of recitations and verses of hope that are original of mine. I've been working on these for several years, and I've gotten a really strong reaction to that. So that's my gift to you if you would like to continue to follow me. I blog about whatever's on my mind. I usually have a hit about the emotional impact of cancer, but it's just trying to slowly educate and then tell stories from my past and my life and my career that relate back to what a gift it is and how I am just I am obsessed, and I'm just so honored to be able to bring to the forefront something that's very much a deficit in our healthcare system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Diana. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kara, let's unmute you. So why don't you tell us how you're taking care of you right now?
I'm so thrilled you're asking this question. And it's one I ask clients all the time. I'm listening to my body more and taking time to rest more.
Rest. Here's to rest.
Right. And just noticing that what worked for self-care before, pre everything, isn't necessarily what's recharging me these days. And so I think it's just really important to take note. Yeah, maybe it used to be going for a walk or a massage were those things. But I think most of us these days, it's deeper than that. And in order to truly recharge and refill our cup, there may be multiple things we need to do. And it probably changes on a daily basis. Sometimes it changes on an hourly basis for me. Drinking more water, getting some more movement, connecting with somebody that I love and care about. So just trying to stay connected to that, which means getting out of here and dropping in here a whole lot more.
So good. So good. And I think, what's kind of coming up for me is part of, why is it different now from before?
Yeah.
There's so much noise coming from so many different directions. Are there other things that come to mind for you that why it's different than before?
Yeah. Everybody has been operating from sort of this crisis space for so long. So we were operating in this way that has kept our nervous systems on high alert. And quite frankly, unless we do things to complete our stress cycle, we're kind of like I tell people a lot of times, like, think about the deer in headlights, the fight, flight, freeze kind of version of that. If you don't have the time to shake out what's happened to you physically, emotionally, you don't really your stress cycle and you don't really recharge. And so I think a lot of us are having to find those different ways of doing that because we're swimming in a society amidst even other just day-to-day challenges that we have. And cognitively, I have to remind myself and others all the time, like, we're just not wired to take this all on. Like, we think we can do all the things and we just, our brains are not wired for that. So pause, slow down, pay attention, and one thing at a time. And I'm saying that because I'm saying it to myself.
Yeah. So good. So good. And what's one pearl of wisdom?
I think for me, it comes back to this philosophy around appreciative inquiry, that inquiry is powerful and we don't have to have all the answers. I think early on as a leader, I had that sort of imposter syndrome and thinking about, I have to know. And we don't have to know. Sometimes the most powerful thing is curiosity and asking a really great question and being okay just not knowing.
So good. So good. That curiosity is such a gift. Where can people learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, thank you. So you can certainly find us at the Rocky Mountain Center for Positive Change website, Rocky Mountain Center for Positive Change.org. Lots of fun articles and resources there, and you can learn and meet my partners as well. I'm active on LinkedIn, just under my name, and just give me a call or shoot me an email. I think Cami will provide contact around that. I would love to connect for Zoom coffee, but in-person coffee.
In-person coffees are always good, right? That's so good. And you've got you've got one spot left in your Brene Brown Dare to Lead workshop.
One spot. So I'm completing one wonderful cohort of Dare to Lead right now. And I have another one starting May 5th. I've got one spot left. Would love to certainly have somebody who feels caught in that space right now to be in a room with all different kinds of leaders from all different kinds of backgrounds. It's just a great shared learning and a place to show up and be brave and practice being brave so that you can get back out in the world and do that with a lot of support around you. So anyone who mentions, this work and Cami, you'll get a special discount for signing up. So I'd love to fill that last spot.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And it's such good work. Who doesn't want to do more Brene Brown work? So yay, that's so awesome. Thank you so much, Kara. Jill, let's unmute you. Did you get you? Here you go.
All right.
Yeah. So tell us how you are taking care of you.
I love this question. And when our groups came together, I was so curious what was going to be the symbiotic thread.
Yeah, there always is.
For the three of us. And this was it. the women I coach are us. And we have these stories and beliefs that we don't have time. We don't have enough time. And I feel like when we talk about how are you taking care of you, and we start talking about the ways and the things that I'm doing, it can push against people's comfort because they don't believe they have time. She's giving everything to work and family, and she's doing. Where is there time for self-care? So Diane, when you said, listen, I'm listening to my heart, and Kara, you said, I'm feeling into my body and I'm going down here to discern how best to take care of me. That's it. I focus on what's going to support my energy. And yes, I work to get more sleep, and I have my time in the mornings that I connect. But my invitation for every woman watching this is that there's no should. It's not you should meditate, you should do yoga, and you should get more sleep, and you should stop eating the wheat, and you should, because hell, we'd all feel amazing if we did all the things. So for me and my work, it's the invitation that there is always enough time and space for you to follow your heart, to discern what is the thing. Maybe today it's drink more water.
Yeah.
So trust yourself, trust your heart, and follow your own internal wisdom. Cheers, friend.
Cheers.
On how to take care of you.
This is well hydrated group.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so what's your one pearl of wisdom?
Validate yourself. Celebrate yourself. Don't be seeking it out, trying to prove yourself, defend yourself. Be yourself. And people say, oh, I have to be humble. Well, does that message mean berate yourself for what you didn't do today, or you didn't do it well enough, or it wasn't perfect? Stop. Every day when you're brushing your teeth at night, and shout out to my clients who don't brush their teeth before they go to bed, whatever you do at night, when you go potty before you go to sleep, what are you proud of? What are you celebrating about what you brought to your day? Did you load the dishwasher when you just didn't feel like it? Did you make the hard phone call that took so much courage and vulnerability? Did you reach out to a friend? Did you drink extra water today? Something. There's always something to celebrate about you. So practice celebration and validation of self rather than being so hard on you.
So good. So good. You guys you're just delivering such great wisdom. Where can people learn more about you and your business?
Awesome. Okay. Everything is my name, Jill Keuth. It's German, like Freud, Deutschmark, Jill Keuth, jillkeuth.com. Email me at jill@jillkeuth.com. Find me on the socials with my name. On my website, I have a free downloadable BU guide. It's your first step to inquiring about, what does this mean to be yourself? What is she talking about? Because nobody listening is fake. Nobody listening goes out and pretends to be someone they're not. I want you to open up to all those colors that are in you. What's your magic? What are your gifts? That's free on my website. And I also offer courage sessions. So a courage session is an opportunity for us to connect and spend an hour together talking about what's going on in your life. What is it you're desiring? What's sort of keeping you from moving forward? And that's a complimentary hour that I would love to spend with anyone that has been inspired, like I have, listening to Diane and Kara and being here with Cami. These are women that are really bringing all of their genius and all of their beauty out into the world. And everyone listening, you have the magic too. And I'd love for us to talk about that and help you set forward on your path from a place of your heart and your wisdom.
So good. Thank you so much, Jill. I really appreciate it. Well, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks for tuning in, to all of you who have tuned in. Tomorrow we will be doing our 5th session of this, and we have Stacy Crew, who is helping authors navigate the publishing and promotion process with ease and clarity. And we have Julia Bernatsky, who is a transformational energy leadership, Untame Your Heart in your life and in business. Both very extraordinary women. I can't wait to have them on tomorrow. And then we have our final day on Thursday. You can catch any of the replays over on the Facebook community. There is it's called Guides, I believe. If you look in the navigation of Extraordinary Women Connect, you can see any of the replays there. If you're tuning in on LinkedIn, you can go back on my profile and see those there as well. And if any of you are really inspired and saying, you know what, it's time to level me up. It's time to get me out into the world. It's time to get my voice out in bigger ways. Let's have a conversation. This is why I do what I do. I'm on a mission to get 1 million women's voices out into the world. This is the ripple effect that happens from, just the ripple effect that happens from these 3 women here. Powerful, powerful stuff, guys. So reach out if you want to have a conversation, if you want to know more about either one of my mastermind programs, the Soulful Inspired Business Mastermind or the Grow, Scale, and Impact Mastermind, which is my platinum level. So let's have a conversation. We will see you tomorrow. Jill, Kara, and Diane, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see everyone tomorrow.